am about to tell you a story, but before I get to the story, I would like to introduce you to the author. I wish he were here, but he is not. His name was Gustav Tengren, and he was born in Sweden and came to the United States, where he stayed for the rest of his life, along with his family. He was a really interesting character, beautiful illustrator and author. And some of the things he did, you know already, but I found this little book in my collection of little books. And I don't use the term little because it's not big and important. That's actually its name. It was called from the Golden Book series. And they were around in the 1930s, which is, he worked with them from 1942 to 1962. And all of his characters, like our friend the saggy baggy elephant, came to us with a very good description by their name, which is not unusual in the fairy tale world. So before I get to saggy baggy elephant, I like to even say it. I think that's really why I like the book in the first place, Saggy Baggy Elephant. He wrote others as well, but the company he worked for before he went to the Golden Book Company, which is now owned by a publisher called Whitman, it was called and it still is, Walt Disney Productions. He was the chief illustrator, hired as a chief illustrator in the 1930s for Disney. And that at that time, they were mostly a cartoon house, and that's good. I mean, I'm talking very famous cartoon movies. The first one they ever made, he was the chief illustrator on. And when you look at the work he did here, you can recognize a little bit of it. The first movie was called Fantasia. And so if and when you ever look at it, and you should, the last story in Fantasia is about and uses, the last one is the Sorcerer's Apprentice, but also in there, I do believe it's the first in the trio of stories, were elephants who did fabulous dances. So you ought to look at that, because Saggy Baggy is an elephant. The other one that I want to remind you of that he was very well known for was a story about a little girl who was lost in the woods and came to live in a house with 7 helpers. And their names were the Seven Dwarfs. So this has always been difficult for me, and that is to remember the dwarfs' names. So I made for you today a chart, because I think it's a really good introduction to our author-illustrator, Gustav Tengren. And that's the name of the dwarfs and how he made them look. So here I put up the first letters. I'm hoping that will help me. And if you use these as a word, it's biggest, which is not a word, but hey, we're good with that. So let's figure it out. What I'm getting at for you is that when he drew these characters, you can still see them in the original drawings of them, and what they did, they called their production shoots. When they went out to the public before the films came out, they had a poster. So if you look at them, there's 7 dwarfs walking on a log, and each and every one of them is drawn to show who they are and how they are called. So think back to things like Little Red Riding Hood. How do we know she's Little Red Riding Hood? She's wearing a red hood. Cinderella, she was always sweeping up the cinders. Their name helped us understand who they were. So this guy's my last and my favorite, so I'm not going to tell him to you, but you're going to figure it out. So let's move down to the D word. There's 2 D words. And if we did them in alphabetical order, this D would be the one you go to see for a well visit or when you don't feel so good. So that would be Doc. In the picture of Doc, he looks very, very important, and because he's always looking to make sure you're okay, Doc always wears glasses. So that's how you know it's Doc when you see him. Oh, now, this guy is also one of my favorites. I don't love the name they gave him, but this is the 1930s, and they called things a little bit different. And his name was Dopey. And I would have called him silly, but they called him Dopey. And he was just a fun kind of guy. Dopey. So now we have two, Dopey and Doc and Dopey. And then this one always had a scowly face, so he was called Grumpy. All right, so that is our friend Grumpy. That's three of our dwarfs. And you know what the H is for. I know you do. It's called Happy. And Happy always had a smiley face. So this I'm going to make a kind of a silly grin. That's for our dopey friend Grumpy. Would be that face. Happy, oh, Happy is just a smile. Just a smile to make your day good. Oh, I think you're going to get this one ready. Oh, yep, that's Sleepy. And if you look at Sleepy, his eyes are always droopy. And he's just kind of there, getting ready to take a snooze. Is Sleepy. But speaking of the SN word, oh, it's allergy season where I live, so this is Sneezy. And his face isn't actually all that interesting, but his nose is always kind of reddish. So I'm going to give him like a doopsie. And he's not always feeling so good, so we don't give him a smiley face. But who's back here? Hiding. Bashful. So I'm going to fill out. So I want you to think about that, because when Gustav wrote these characters, illustrated these characters, he used who they were to make us understand who they were. It's kind of backwards. But if you see someone walking down the street with a grumpy face, I'd like you to make them happy by smiling at them. So that's the what I'm going to put for you there. Well, he left Disney's in the 40s, and then he went to work for this company called the Golden Books. And this one is kind of special, is to me, because it's in the shape. It's called shape books. And a lot of them were shape books. This is going to show you how old my book is. This book cost me, when I bought it brand new, 39 cents. That doesn't happen anymore, and that's kind of too bad. So I'm going to put him up here so you can look at him. And then look at what he did. It's called the Saggy Baggy Elephant. So it does a couple of things. Saggy Baggy. Immediately you know what our elephant looks like. He's saggy. And but he doesn't know. He lives all alone in the jungle, which is also something really interesting. Making a little sound effect there with my wonderful sound effect thing. So he doesn't know how he looks. And I brought some leaves along for scenery. You can use those or draw some leaves. Or now, if it's by you, it's me. It's fall. So you can bring some of those beautiful fall leaves in. Because in the jungle, they do have fall. Now, I've told lots of elephant stories. One of my personal favorites is BABAR the elephant. And I'll tell you one of those. But for today, we're going to concentrate on Saggy Baggy. And because I want you to be able to tell the story, I'm going to show you how to make a quick and easy, always available puppet material. And this is called a tube. You can use one of the great big ones for paper towels or gift wrap. Those are really tall elephants. Or because our elephant is little, I'm going to use a smaller one that I get from paper towels that we use in the bathroom. So here we go. How do you make this into an elephant? First thing, how do we know what an elephant is? Just like these characters, they have distinguishing characteristics. What does an elephant have that makes him distinguished? Did you say his trunk? Got it. It's exactly what he has. So I want you to pick up this. I want you to cut almost a triangle, but leave a flat end. It's hard to see it, so what I'm going to do first is cut it, and then I'm going to take my marker so you can see where I cut. It's kind of hard to see when I'm working on the white paper, but I want you to see it, and it'll be kind of cool. I think it'll look neat when you figure out what happens. So what I did was 2 cuts. Hold it up again like that. Got it? All right. It's kind of like a V that can stand up. Then take one of these things, these finger things, and pull it all the way down to fold it. Aha. That's his trunk. It's not his nose. Trunks are so cool. An elephant's trunk has muscles at the end of it. So if it wanted to, it could pick stuff up. Fabulous. Oh, so that's his trunk. What else does an elephant have? Oh, you got it. Big ears. So then I'm going to draw this on again. I'll do it the first time rather than the second time. And this is totally up to you. I draw the letter, oh, what does that look like? It's a backwards J, right? Draw one over here. I'll draw another one here, but this one isn't backwards. Kind of cool, huh? Maybe it's backwards to you because the screen does that. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut them out. I'm going to cut one over here. I think you've probably already figured out what I'm going to do. Yes, I'm going to cut this one here. And then I'm going to cut this one here. And even though he won't have the characteristic that the title calls for, because he doesn't have any skin, which is what makes him the saggy, baggy elephant, I have a friend out there somewhere who says to me, oops, oh dear. Okay, so that one here, and then you fold it like that. All right, so there's his ear. And here's one I already made. Cool. Put that one down there for later. Now, the one I made here, I didn't draw too well, the outlines of, because I wanted to do it last night to make sure it worked well. And so one of my ears is a little bit smaller than the other. But elephant doesn't care, because that would make a whole new story, right? The elephant whose one ear was bigger than the other ear. Maybe the elephant who wore earrings. Whatever. So here now we have 2 ears. I put on just 2 eyes. It's not the perfect elephant figure, but I like him. And could you tell the story with him? Oh, yeah. You can make lots of them, too, because that's how our story ends. So the other thing the elephant has to learn to do is to dance. And if you put your fingers in here, you can make him dance like that. But the character that we're talking about, Suki, that's his name in the book, S-O-O-K-I, Suki, is an elephant who lives alone in the jungle. And I have one other character that was given to me by another puppeteer who was teaching lessons for us and said we could have in their bag of goodies any puppet we wanted. So I found him, and I love him. It's made by a company named Folk Manus, and I like their puppets too because they are washable. So he's got something here called tusks, and the Saggy Baggy has them too. And they're very, very beautiful. Okay, so if you have your elephant, and I have mine elephant, we could begin to tell our story. And when we're all done and we've danced our dance, I'm going to use my Saggy Baggy here to tell the story because he is kind of saggy baggy and he does live in the jungle. And should I make you some noise? Oh, I know what. We'll save that for the dance at the end. Did you read this book? You did? Did you like it? Awesome. Me too. And I like it. Its title. Okay, here we go. The Saggy Baggy Elephant. Once upon a time, there was a little elephant who lived happily in the jungle, all by himself. He loved to dance, he loved to play, he loved to lie under the sunshine in his jungle. But one day, a beautiful parrot came over and said to him, "Look at you, you are all wrinkled. Why are you so wrinkled?" Well, the Saggy Baggy elephant had no clue he was wrinkled. He lived all by himself. He'd never seen himself. So he walked down to the water's edge, and when he looked inside, oh, what am I to do? I'm all wrinkled. Poor Saggy Baggy and all the other animals, none of them elephants, called him the Saggy Baggy elephant. And Saggy Baggy felt so sorry for himself. Now the sleek tiger said to him, "What? Maybe you should have an exercise plan. And the Saggy Baggy tried. Suki did exercises, push-ups, jogging. Not easy for an elephant. But none of that worked. So one day, while feeling terribly sorry for itself, Suki went for a walk and came across a scary, great, big lion and ducked into a cave. It was cold, tired, and so lonely. Did not know what to do, but knew that staying in that cave was not going to help. So Suki went to the edge of the cave, peeked out, and when saw the lion, was so afraid, did something Suki had never done, lifted up his trunk and trumpeted. And the minute it trumpeted, something happened that had never happened to Suki before. All across the jungle, all the other elephants that Suki had never met came running. And when Suki looked at them, she saw that all of them were wrinkly and saggy baggy too. So she said to them, "You're all wrinkled and saggy baggy, just like me." And they looked at her and said, "That's what elephants are." Oh, well, I cannot tell you how happy she was. She was so happy that she had done what she used to do before she was so embarrassed by how she looked, not knowing that that was not important. So she put on a little bit of jungle music and started to dance. A one, a two. She danced off with her friends, happy because being saggy baggy on the outside was never as important as who she was on the inside. Elephants are a most unique and beautiful creature. They can dance. They can help do work. They give us such treats and delights. Why, only last week I went all the way to the zoo in honor of my birthday and visited those elephants. And I am pretty sure if I listened carefully, I could hear them go, happy birthday, Marilyn. I'm sure they did that. So look up Saggy Baggy Elephant. You might even see a little film told differently, of course, because when we tell our stories, we tell them with a slightly different take that makes it your story and mine. The most famous of our author's books, Gustav Tengren, was called The Poky Little Puppy. It sold more hardcover children's books, that size, than any other book before or since. He was an amazing author. He did beautiful books and beautiful stories that always had a message. So curl up with a book, figure out who you are and what is really important, the inside, not the outside. Have a great day, a day of great. See you later. Bye for now.